Hey guys, Andrew Davidson here, and welcome back to another As Per My Ability video. If you like what we do here at As Per My Ability, if you like our videos, if you like our content, if you like board games in general, please do us a favor, comment, like, subscribe, leave some comments, and make sure you hit the bell so you get notifications when we post new videos. Today's video is going to be about role-playing games. Now, as long as I've been around, as long as I've been alive, Dungeons & Dragons has been the role-playing experience. It's permeated the cultural tabletop zeitgeist. Everyone knows Dungeons & Dragons. That is, if you know role-playing games. Everyone has had great experiences with Dungeons & Dragons, or terrible experiences with Dungeons & Dragons. Or they played it once because their boyfriend or girlfriend wanted to play with them, and they just played it once and they were done and they could take it or leave it. Now, for the most part, role-playing games have not changed. Dungeons & Dragons has just been the go-to role-playing game. A while back, quite a few decades, Pathfinder came on the scene. A lot of people switched over to Pathfinder because Wizards of the Coast. A lot of people felt that they were handling Dungeons & Dragons incorrectly as far as the way they were putting out their editions and kind of dumbing down the system. I have no comment on that. I do not play Dungeons & Dragons. I do not currently play it. I have played it when I was a kid. Just like I said, we all have that one experience, one or more experiences. There are some groups that take Dungeons & Dragons very seriously. There are groups that have been playing for decades. They get together at conventions every year and they spend the entire convention playing Dungeons & Dragons. I know this because I've seen this happen. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about two different but yet still the same non-traditional role-playing games. Now, that's just a term that I have used to talk about these games. Within the last 10 years or so, role-playing system has been changed, altered. Some of the fundamentals of role-playing have gone more kid-friendly, or they've been streamlined in various ways as far as focusing more on the tabletop, which is like the maps and the miniatures, or focusing more on storytelling. Some of them even work on collaborative storytelling. Today's video, we're going to be talking about one of those non-traditional role-playing games. So stick with me and I'll tell you my thoughts after we get through the sweet intro. Welcome back, everybody. Like I said, today we're talking about non-traditional role-playing games. So what's a non-traditional role-playing game? Well, as I already said, it's a term that I use that basically says any kind of role-playing game that gets away from the D&D structure or the Pathfinder structure and does things, offers a role-playing experience in a new way to some degree. Now, there's quite a few of these that I'd like to talk about. I don't have the time, the money, the resources to do a video on every single one of these, so I picked one that I'm currently playing to talk about because it's one I'm currently playing. But before getting into that, I'd like to talk about some other, very briefly, talk about some other non-traditional role-playing games. One of them would be Fiasco. Fiasco is a role-playing game that really gets rid of the dice rolling. In fact, it's great for theater students because you create a character, you create relationships or how you know people sitting to the left and right of you. You act out scenes. There's a whole structure as far as how long the thing goes. It's more for kind of play acting. It relies a lot more on the acting aspect. If it sounds interesting, if it sounds like something you want to do for your acting group, maybe you're a teacher and you want to have some exercises, Fiasco is a good one to check out. I would recommend searching up, as the kids say, Will Wheaton's tabletop where he plays Fiasco. Watch that video and see if it's something right for you, your play group, or perhaps your class if you want to use it in a acting or drama class. Some other ones that I'm going to kind of just put together, put up by the same design team. It's called Alice is Missing and Icarus. Alice is Missing is a silent role-playing game, again getting rid of dice rolls and skill checks, in which you will play on your phone. It's a silent game. You're not allowed to communicate with the other players other than on your phone. So you have a smartphone, you have a group chat, and the game takes place in exactly 90 minutes. There's a timer, and everyone just plays on their phones. Now, there is a card system where you flip cards that drives the narrative so that people don't just sit on their phone going like, I don't know what to put. The cards will help bring the story out so that within the last 10 minutes, especially by the time 90 minutes is over, you will have kind of a completion to your whole story. Alice is Missing, I must say, is an adult game in regards to it deals with themes like sex trafficking, suicide. It's a pretty heavy game, not something that you would want to play lightly. It's kind of like the Schindler's List. Great movie, but you're probably not going to play it a whole lot, but it's a great experience. It's called Alice is Missing. I highly recommend you check it out if you're looking for an experience where you can walk away at the end of it and go, I have never played anything like that before in my entire life. The other one is also by Hunters Entertainment and Renegade. It's called Icarus, and it's a collaborative storytelling game where you are building a civilization and you're coming up with aspects on how your civilization collapses. Why does your civilization collapse? How does it collapse? Does the language fall apart? Do politics fall apart? Is it total, complete anarchy? It's a collaborative game where you will be putting together a story cooperatively, and again, the game uses some cards to drive the story until your inevitable end. This is not a game for people that want to win or lose. Same with Alice is Missing. It's more about the experience. If you can go back and check out my Icarus video, you realize I didn't really care for it too much, but maybe it's one that I'll come around to. So, the game that I want to talk about today, it's actually two games, but it's essentially the same game. So, the games are called Kids on Bikes. It's this little book right here, and then there's also the kind of the sister game, if you will, and it's called Junior Brave Survival Guide to the Apocalypse. It looks like this. These two games are essentially the same game mechanically. They're different in theme, and I'll talk about that the most since mechanically they are pretty close to the same. We are currently playing this one, which is Junior Brave Survival Guide to the Apocalypse. This is based on a graphic novel series. I don't know anything about it, but everyone will be creating a character that is a Boy Scout, Girl Scout. You're going to be creating probably a teenager, although you can play adults in this game. I don't really recommend it. You're going to be playing a teenager that is part of a Boy Scout / Girl Scout group that goes out on some sort of adventure away from your village or your town. You're out in the middle of nowhere, and when you come back from your Boy Scout vacation, the apocalypse has happened. Now, this one does require a GM or DM. GM is the game master, so you do need a game master to do a lot of the rolling and checks. This one does have, they both do. They have skill checks. They have a character sheet where you have your typical attributes such as dexterity or brawn and like combat or how quick you are. So it does follow that same idea of the attributes, but is very streamlined. This one is extremely good for kids. In fact, that's the reason why I sat down, is because I noticed a couple of posts on social media within the last, I don't know, month or so, where people have been talking about, hey, I played role-playing games growing up. My kids are starting to turn to that age, 12, 13, 14, where I'd like to play role-playing games with them. But all I know is Dungeons and Dragons, or it might be a system that's too complicated for them. This one here is very streamlined. It is very easy to set up and to get going and to start playing. As mom or dad can play the game master, the kids can play Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, basically teenagers, and there is an apocalypse. And you can decide as the game master whatever you want your apocalypse to be. Maybe it's zombies. Maybe it's some sort of like weather thing, earthquakes. Maybe it's the 10 plagues from the Bible, whatever. But basically, it's an apocalyptic story that's very suited for kids. So that's why I wanted to lead with this one, because I think that if you are out there watching this video, if you're watching my channel, and you are a parent that is looking for a game, a role-playing game, to play with your kids, this is a good one. The Junior Brave Survival Guide to the Apocalypse. It's a role-playing game. As you can see, it is just a tiny little hardback game. Not a whole lot of rules. There are skill checks, so kids do get to roll dice and succeed or not succeed, all that fun stuff. But it really is so streamlined that it's incredibly easy and fun to play. This is one that I'm currently GMing at the time of filming this video, and I'm having fun with it. My players are having fun with it, despite the fact that it's probably made for 8-year-olds. 8-year-olds, dude. The next one is Kids on Bikes. Before I get started, I want to say that the two of these are basically, from a mechanical aspect, pretty much the same game. They operate off of the same structure, character creation, the attributes, the abilities, the dice rolling. They're basically the same game. In fact, if I can even get this to focus, it does say that it is powered by the Kids on Bikes system. Now, Kids on Bikes came out first. It came out probably 10 years ago at this point. And Kids on Bikes is thematically, while the other one was kind of the Boy Scout, Girl Scout, you're all playing teenagers. This one is basically what I like to call Stranger Things, the role-playing game. Now, I'm assuming they couldn't get the rights to actually put Stranger Things on the cover of the book or the name of their game, but that's essentially what it is. If you like Stranger Things and you like role-playing games, I recommend that you check out Kids on Bikes, because akin to the other one, like I said, they use the same system. It is very streamlined, very easy to learn. You're going to be creating characters where you are kids in a small town during the 80s where there's something supernatural. That's all GM dependent. Whatever story the GM wants to tell you, your kids, small town, 1980s, nostalgia factor, no cell phones, no like personal computers. You're just some kids on bikes in the neighborhood, and you stumble across something or another. Something supernatural. Maybe it's something like you find out some corruption, or you find out the neighbors that moved in next door are not who they say that they are. Who knows? But that's basically the theme of Kids on Bikes. And the rule book is, again, incredibly small. This is a paperback. Again, this one requires a GM, as I've said, but both of these games are very kid-friendly, depending on how the GM wants to run the game, but they both take place where you're playing kids, teenagers. This one's probably got more of the supernatural, spooky, Stranger Things vibe to it, whereas this one has more of an apocalypse. Maybe it's zombies or whatever. Regardless, just pick whichever theme you think your kids or your family would like better, because as far as how they're played pretty much the same. So that's all I really have to say in this video about these two role-playing games, non-traditional role-playing games. There is dice rolling in this one, and there is a GM in this one, unlike Icarus and Alice is Missing and Fiasco. But they are, I still consider them non-traditional because they're so simple and they're so light and so easy to just pick up and to play. I don't know the designers at all, but I'm pretty sure if I were able to talk to them that they would have kids on their mind, meaning that they made their game to be accessible for families and teenagers. And so yeah, since it's Halloween time, maybe you want to check out Kids on Bikes and do something spooky, haunted mansion, supernatural, something or another. Just watch an episode of Scooby-Doo and just take that and kind of put it in your game. Or if not, if you're playing during the summertime, or if your kids are involved in Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts club or any type of scouting organization or identity, this might be a good one to have an apocalypse and have your kids kind of return to their village from their outing and the apocalypse has happened. What it is, I have no clue. It's all up to your GM. So these are two ones that I highly recommend, probably not on a whole lot of people's radar, because when you think of role-playing games, you really think of Dungeons and Dragons. And so hopefully this video will give you something to think about, something to consider. This is where I'm going to leave us. Once again, my name is Andrew Davidson, and you have been watching As Per My Ability. I look forward to seeing each and every single one of you at the next video. Hey, and let's go, Brandon.